UFC 330, Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry, which I thought ended up being a pretty compelling fight overall. We'll have stuff to talk about with that. Before we get into the main card, what about some of these prelims?
Chidi Njokuani versus Joel Alvarez. Chidi just put on a clinic versus Alvarez, who has really seemed to lose a step lately. I know, he came off an injury. He's gone up a weight class, but he's gotten beat up the last 2 times out. And then Jalen Turner. I'm going off because the UFC website is terrible. We had Charles Johnson on the main card last week, which that's not where he ended up. Or we didn't have Jalen Turner on the main card because he wasn't on the main card on the UFC's website. So we're just going to talk about him now because this fight was so short. He knocked out Fernandez, sent through the shadow realm in like 40 seconds. So there's really not too much to say other than that. I'm glad that Jalen came back. All I could think about was I was super glad that this guy came back from retiring because he is a special talent. And he has the ability to, do something in the division, even though the division's super stacked. But I'm just really glad he came back. And then, further down the line, Neil Magny, he was a big underdog again, and he got yet another TKO comeback win. So shout out to Neil Magny.
I have Neil Magny right up here. Isn't that the most wins in UFC welterweight division history now?
Is it? He's somewhere around there. I know he said he was coming for Jim Miller's record of most UFC wins. He said, I'm in pretty good shape and chasing him down. I mean, he's way more active than Jim is, so he could catch him.
Ty Charles there for 25, but I'm going to look at Jim Miller's record because a lot of these
makes sense because like all of his fights have been at welterweight. He's been in the UFC for like 20 years. So
Jim has 28. So there you go.
He's catching him. He's getting there. He could get there. Jim's only got, like 1 or 2 more probably. So
Jim would probably. I bet you if Jim wins his next one, I could see him try to see if he get those 30 fights. So 30 wins.
Yeah. Good. I mean, depends how he looks, but yeah. Let's get in this main card though. Let's talk about Edson Barboza versus Esteban Ribovics.
Ribovics with a 2nd round stoppage. He looks super aggressive to me here. Great combination, sharp elbows. I think it was on those elbows that caused a big gash on Barboza. Ultimately, he ended up getting the 2nd round stoppage and impressive performance.
Yeah, he really just dismantled Barboza. It was kind of similar to that Darren Elkins where it just showed, it was clearly time for you to retire, which Barboza did afterwards. He was very emotional. But yeah, it was time for him to go out, not take damage like he was taking in that fight. So he had a lot of great moments in the cage, though. I wish that he could have gotten some sort of video package, but it seemed like he didn't talk to the UFC about the fact that this was going to be his last one. So
yeah, I think that highlight reel kick with Terry Edom was always the one that's going to pop.
Yeah, one of the biggest highlights in UFC history for sure.
I think such a great division. A fight with another name value guy might be King Green. Somebody that could be fun for Esteban maybe next.
Yeah, that'd be a good test for him too. Stylistically, you have to be composed and have discipline against Bobby. Otherwise, he's gonna counter you a lot, and that's a thing that Ribovics could add to his game, some discipline. Here, Mansur Abdul-Malik versus Dustin Stoltzfus. This didn't go how I thought it was gonna go.
No, I don't think it did for a lot of people. 2nd round stub for Dustin. One thing I noticed, he seemed to have Abdul's timing down very well. Turns out they were training partners, I guess. So that could explain some of that. He had been taking damage too, I want to say, in round 2, and he stayed composed. He came back with some hard shots and eventually secured his back for the choke. Yeah, and I don't know. I believe I've heard they were training partners, which would make a lot of sense because, again, I thought he had his timing down pretty well. And when he did take some hard shots, I felt like it's almost like he knew what was coming. He seemed very composed.
Yeah, I think really this just boils down to Mansur just isn't as good as we thought he was when he was coming into the UFC. He has not really looked that great. He doesn't utilize his wrestling at all, which is, arguably his strongest asset. So bad loss for him. I don't want to shit on Dustin Stoltzfus too much, but if you're not beating him, you probably shouldn't be in the UFC. So he needs a great improvement from there. But like you said, training partners, that can throw off a lot of stuff. Very weird dynamic. So yeah, maybe give him one more and check it out. But
for Dustin, I think his next ideal fight, I don't think he'll get this one, but would maybe be a guy like Bo Nickel. Somebody with a name, you got more experience then. It could be a fun little fight for Bo as he continues up. Obviously, I think Bo is such a talent that he would win that fight. But I think matchmaking-wise, before you put Bo in there, maybe with another top ranked guy or something, this could be something for him.
Yeah, you're bringing him along at that pace. Yeah, I think that's a good match. I mean, Dustin is durable. He's tough, experienced in the UFC for sure. Yeah, that might be a good way to move up. Let's talk about this Charles Johnson, Eduardo Henrique fight, which wasn't, in this spot on the card, but UFC's website is messed up. So it was supposed to be Jose Ochoa versus Charles Johnson originally. Ochoa pulled out because his training partner tragically passed away, which, has been all over UFC's news. Nascimento, RIP. So Shoot Box is hurting. Charles didn't want to do his fight and end up with Armin, so that's why Armin's matched up now. And so in steps Eduardo Henrique. He's a guy out of DC's camp, and he basically gave Charles all he could handle in the time he was there, but Charles lands a round 3 Scottish twister.
Yes.
After enduring a few accidental fouls from Henrique. So tough fight, but I love a Scottish twister for sure. Only the second one landed in the UFC, I believe.
And he did get a performance of the night for this too. So 3 performance of the nights, fight of the night for this guy's career. Of course, I did take down the main card notes. I don't have a fight for Charles Johnson next, but I will go backtrack for Jalen Turner, Drew Dober. Just want to throw that one out there.
Oh yeah, that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
That's a tough fight for Drew Dober though. Jalen's so long, and powerful. Yeah, that's a fun fight though.
Charles Johnson graduations, Scottish twister. That was super cool. That's actually when I walked in and started watching the fights as well. So that was kind of a cool moment.
Yeah, super cool.
And there was a choke or something earlier in the evening too. So some good submissions.
Yeah, oral by. I think in the first fight of the night, he was supposed to dismantle this guy, and he ended up getting ninja choked pretty early on. I didn't put that one in my notes, but yeah, I did watch from the beginning, and I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. Let's move on here. Co-main event, Mackenzie Dern versus Gillian Robertson.
We like Gillian Robertson, but I think we said it before. This was kind of what we thought would happen. This was just a bad stylistic matchup. Mackenzie Dern as champion could be the toughest stylistic matchup for her. Ultimately, there was a lot of grappling here, and that's right in Dern's wheel. Gillian Robertson's a great grappler, but this is Dern. She's a specialist, right? She's a specialist when it comes to jiu-jitsu and stuff. So I thought that was the key here. She controlled most of the grappling throughout the fight. She got a decision. This is kind of what we thought. Gillian Robertson's tough. She probably had her moments. I think there was one round I gave for her. Ultimately, I know it was kind of weird in the main event and co-main event. Pretty much all the judges had it 49-46, and then one had it 48-47 each time. So somebody must have gave her another round. I didn't have it like that. But there was also some other controversy here with Dean Thomas. I'll let you talk about that and the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Dern absolutely demolished Robertson. I've talked about how I'm a big Gillian Robertson fan for a long time, but like you said, stylistically, matchup wise, this is just really tough for her. She's not gonna submit Mackenzie Dern. I mean, that just was not gonna happen. On the feet, I mean, Dern was miles better. Her footwork was much better. Her boxing looks so good. It's been the commentary talked about it too, up and down, and it really goes with that Jason Perillo. When she left Jason Perillo for a little while, her striking went way down. The level went way down. She's back with him, went way back up. I mean, she looks fantastic. And then when it did go to the ground, she really just got outworked and outclassed. So a lot of Gillian's success was Dern really chasing submissions and giving up position, because I don't think she ever really felt that threatened. I think there was some heat with Gillian saying, that she or people were saying that Gillian is the actual submission record holder for the division. Maybe she's the better grappler, and I think Dern wanted to make a point and submit her, but she wasn't able to. That was basically Gillian's claim to fame for the night, is she didn't get submitted by Dern. So with that, her longtime coach, Dean Thomas, afterwards, obviously an analyst, cage side and on the desk, he went up and got on the desk afterwards and said he retired. He had taken Gillian as far as he thinks she can go, and he just doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't want to be there when they're cutting weight and all that stuff. He doesn't like any of those things. Basically, stole her moment, which should have been, you should try to be celebrating. I mean, she just fought for a title. Yeah, she came up short, but still, how many UFC fighters even get to fight for a title. You have to go on a pretty long streak to get there. So a little bit selfish from Dean. Really, really bad timing. He's come out since and apologized. It was a very good apology. He's been getting destroyed online, which obviously that doesn't mean anything at all, but it is warranted in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think Dean Thomas is challenged for a title, actually, that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, I was a big fan of the guy, you know, from his, like, that show he had with Matt Serra and Dana White, the Looking for a Fight show. He was on there, and, you know, he's funny. He's been on, you know, podcasts and stuff I've watched or listened to, and I liked him, but it was awful. I was immediately turned off by that. Just to be a coach and treat your fighter like that, who you're supposed to have like this unbreakable relationship with. I mean, I get you could be upset with her performance or her effort or something, or she didn't follow the game plan or something like that. But to just go on and bash her like that and say, no, I'm retired, I can't do this with these people anymore, is unwarranted.
Yeah, the timing was awful. Here's what it is. Hopefully everybody, Dean and Gillian, can move on and maybe have better success. But yeah, it is unfortunate.
What do you got next for Dern?
Oh, for Dern? Yeah, Weili Zhang. I hope Weili, I know there's no official timetable. I don't know if they got her back, but yeah, like when Weili Zhang is ready to fight and they got everything taken care of, I'd love to see her go after this championship again. And just honestly, I don't favor Dern at all in that type of matchup because Weili never lost its belt and she's probably the most dominant strawweight ever. But seeing how much Dern has improved and the style that she brings to the fight, I'd love to see it. Let's make it happen when we can.
That did look like the best version of Mackenzie Dern in that fight. So she is still improving, it looks like. So, yeah, much more interested in that fight after this Gillian Robertson fight.
Yes.
DC kind of alluded that there was something going on with Zhang, and maybe she wouldn't even be back. I don't know what that means, whether it means she wouldn't be back to this division or she's not going to fight anymore or she has something else going on where she's going to be out for a long time. But if she is going to be out, how about Fatima Klein, who just won a couple weeks ago and looked super dominant? She's like the next big thing at strawweight, I think.
Make it happen. You know, make this division interesting. Throw some key fights out there like that. I mean, yeah, if we can't get Weili Zhang, why not? You know, let's get some up-and-comers. All
right, let's move on to the main event, the welterweight belt here. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry.
I heard Filthy Tom Lawler on a wrestling show before this actually picked Ian Garry because he said he knew he was a long shot. He says, but I'm going to go on a limb. He says on Ian Garry's long limbs. And he's like, I think he can pull this off. He's the bigger fighter. He's the rangier fighter. And I thought when he said that, it made a lot of sense to me because I'm like, oh yeah, if Ian can keep Islam Makhachev off him, they're off the fence, keep him at range, this should be good. He wasn't really able to do that. Makhachev was able to take him down.
He didn't really try to do it. He tried to get inside. He was like fighting, even in the first like 10 seconds, he got right in his face, didn't stay at like range. He was like baiting his leg in front of him for the single leg.
It's interesting, right? Because Makhachev ended up knocking him down at one point here too, I want to say too. But if you play that game with Islam, we saw this with Khabib too, who had kind of unorthodox striking. Like if you play that game when you're grappling and you're kind of nervous, stuff like that, they end up catching you a lot of times because they're good enough strikers where if you're not, you know, fully there, like they will catch you and they got a lot of power. But yeah, I thought it was a couple interesting things too. I know the commentary, especially Rogan, brought up the fact that this was the most we've seen Islam Makhachev tested, and I would agree with that to a point. You know, you could see Islam Makhachev that he wasn't able to ragdoll Ian Garry. But in terms of like, you know, and we'll talk about this afterwards, but like other potential fighters, is this going to be a problem for Islam Makhachev? You know, we talked about this on the podcast before. Ian Garry just has a way of being even like he's either going to beat you or, you know, if he can make it exciting, cool. But if he can't, he doesn't give a shit. He will have a boring win or he will make you beat him in a boring fashion. This was actually probably one of the better fights I thought they could have had given the strategy. I think Luke Thomas talked about Ian Garry is a very defensive fighter and he's a very smart fighter and he's very calculated. Islam Makhachev is more of an offensive fighter, but he's also extremely defensively sound. So if it gets down to it, you know, we had a feeling this wouldn't be the most exciting fight, but it was interesting. I'm actually very interested even more now after watching this fight to see how Makhachev does in his next opponent with somebody big. Is this Garry just being so defensively strong, or is this just a problem he's going to have with bigger welterweights? And I think in an exciting way, this fight provided more questions than answers, and I like that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So I gave Ian round 3. I thought he looked great in round 3, and then you could say he was winning the beginning of round 5.
Right.
Also, and Islam was damaged for sure. He had some stuff on his face, but he took a lot of really bad body kicks that, he doesn't show a lot of pain or grimacing or anything, but he had bruising all up and down his ribs and stuff. And I just think if you're a finisher like a Prates or Morales and you land some of those things on Islam, and they're even bigger than Ian Garry, and they certainly hit a lot harder. Can Islam stand up to that? And is it likely that Islam is going to be able to ragdoll them any more than he was able to ragdoll Ian Garry, which he didn't really ragdoll. I mean, Garry got up multiple times. He was never really flat on his back for more than like a couple seconds. And it was mostly, like to the cage, and he would be up against the cage or whatever. So definitely a much tougher fight for Islam, and we hold, the guys from Khabib's camp to a higher standard. We're used to seeing them like really dominate people. So, he may have won the fight in a decision in a pretty dominant fashion, but it wasn't the type of dominant that we're used to seeing from that style of fighter. But yes, I agree with you. Ian's kind of put the blueprint out there and showed maybe some of the holes that some people could exploit.
Execute that. That's
if people who are better finishers. I think Ian could have done better in this fight. Yeah. Also, I think he's going to look back at this one and think he could have made a couple adjustments and, maybe won that fight. So, yeah, I wonder what's going to go on with Islam now, because I'll tell you right now, I'm a fan of Islam, but we know from this camp that they really, really care about their records and their legacy and everything. He struggles like that again in the next one, he's going to kick rocks. He's going to be retired and out. He's not going to risk taking a loss, I don't think.
There's a thing I saw on Instagram where there was like all the Makhachevs and the Magomedovs, this team is like a record of like something like 129-2.
That's not accurate. They're forgetting about Usman or Nurmagomedov, who he has like 4 or 5 losses himself.
Okay.
Or not. It's one of the Magomedovs. There's 100 of them, so it's hard to tell. But he used to be in that group where they would put him in there, and then he lost a bunch of times. And now they just pretend he doesn't exist.
Okay.
And they cut him out because they hold the flag where it's Usman, Islam, and Khabib up now. And there's the Saeed, or I can't remember which one has like 4 or 5 losses.
I want to ask you this before we move on. I said that this was a compelling fight, right? Ultimately, this is what I struggle with. Was it a competitive fight? Yes, it was more competitive than we're used to seeing Islam fight. Like usually his fights are not this competitive. But was it still good? He won 4-1 most scorecards. At the same time, in saying that, this is not the rules of the fight. This is not how it works. But if it went 4 more rounds, like Islam was looking like the guy who was tired. Like I would have favored Ian Garry eventually to get this done. So was it a competitive fight, or would you say not that it was? And it's not a slight. Would you say it's more compelling? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I would call it compelling because Garry is almost never in danger of getting finished by anything that Ian did, as opposed to that head kick that landed on Garry and wobbled him, and he barely survived on the feet and got his wits. But yeah, I mean, Islam was never in trouble. He was never rocked. He was never even like hit with anything particularly hard that wasn't a body shot. He was never taken down or pushed up against the cage. Like he was always in control. Well, so I think compelling just where it's managing expectations and what could happen. And like I said, there's a blueprint where you can see Islam could be hurt by somebody that is capable of landing a devastating blow, that's just not Ian Garry's game.
So I do want to say Michael Morales, I think, should be the next opponent. Carlos Prates is fun, exciting, but at the same time, even though I think that might be a better lead up, like they'd have some great, like exchange of words. I think I'm all about right now when it comes to Islam Makhachev, just seeing the best in there with him. And this is not a slight on Carlos, but I think defensively, Islam Makhachev could exploit him. Although he provides a certain danger with the power, I think Michael Morales just being so big, so explosive, I think he's a little tighter defensively, and just that undefeated record too. Let's do that one.
He's also so Prates was taken down by multiple fighters and held. So what do you think Islam's gonna do? We know the path that that Islam's going to take there. Morales is a judo black belt.
Right.
He was on the Ecuadorian wrestling national team, so he has great grappling skills. He's absolutely enormous. He would never make 155 like Islam did. He'd never be able to make that. He cuts an enormous amount of weight just to make welterweight, so he's huge. And obviously we know he has tremendous power in his hands. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge, I think. I'm with you. Let's just get him right in there. You know, Prates definitely has the power where he could land one, the puncher's chance kind of thing. But we've seen that play out many, many times. Let's see Michael Morales, who, you know, could actually pose a real problem for Islam.
But the intriguing part about that, though, and the side of that is that he is so big. If he's explosive and he doesn't give Islam Makhachev, does he gas out in a 5-round fight? Right. So
yeah.
But I want to see it.
Can he take shots too? Because, you know, Islam, you know, it's because of the style where he's so grappling heavy. But he, unlike Khabib, you know, Khabib landed that one punch on Conor.
Right.
That was about the only striking he did his entire career. Islam is a good striker. You know, he throws that high kick, which he landed on Garry and almost KO'd him, you know, which he landed on Volk and knocked him out. He is a good striker as well, but it's because people are so worried about the grappling. He's able to mix it in. So yeah, much more interesting matchup to me would be Michael Morales.
Absolutely. All right. That was ended up being a pretty good UFC 330, all things considered. We got spoiled a couple months here with some really, really big name fights. So, but hey, UFC 330 was solid.